Thanks a lot. A lot has already taken place as far as the IPL mini auction 2023 is concerned. The first time an auction is taking place outside of the country, in Dubai to be precise. I'm joined by none other than former England cricketer Graeme Swann, who was also with us during the World Cup. Swanny, nice to be talking to you again. I hope you've been tracking what's happening in the IPL auctions. How does it look so far? You know, the theme has certainly been Aussies are in high demand. Certainly the ones who made their mark in the World Cup, and Sunrisers Hyderabad have nabbed up two of them. Pat Cummins for a record 20 crore plus, which is the highest IPL price now, and Travis Head as well.
Hey, good morning, Shivani. Hello, India. Yeah, it's been a hectic morning, hasn't it? The one I'm looking at, actually, English perspective, is poor old Harry Brook, who last year went for over £1 million in hard currency, and now he's quartered that. So one disappointing year for Harry Brook, but then a brilliant auction for Pat Cummins and Travis Head. Like you say, that World Cup, that's still fresh in everyone's memory. And then Pat Cummins being the leader, he'll probably lead Sunrisers as well. It's very timely, isn't it? These guys who do well just before the auction, they set themselves up. And yeah, the Australians are they're the hot ticket at the moment.
You know, Sunrisers Hyderabad have almost spent their entire purse. I think last I checked, they were left with about 5 crores still. I'm not sure what else they'll be going for. But look at the ones that they've managed to pick up today. It's 20.5 crores for Pat Cummins, the highest bid and the highest price in IPL auctions now. And not surprisingly, Pat Cummins led as a leader. You know, he did it with the bat as well when the team really needed. And of course, he's amongst the best when it comes with the ball. They managed to get Travis Head, boost their, batting lineup. Not many foreigners that they had in their team. So they've obviously bought a lot of foreigners. And among them is Vanindu Hasaranga. And he has actually been bought by, for a pretty flat price of his base price of 1.5 crores. That would be a steal.
An absolute steal, yeah. I mean, when you are doing this, I don't know if everyone knows, all these franchises, they do mock auctions amongst themselves as well. And they say, if we don't get this player, do we get this other player? And they sit there doing their own like mock bidding before the auction takes place, a few days before. I wonder if they said for Pat Cummins, we're taking him no matter what, even if it blows our whole budget. Because it certainly seems like that. They put all their eggs in the Harry Brook basket last year. With Brian Lara's coach, that didn't work out for them. It's like they've just drawn a line under it. Whether it's a panic buy or whether it's saying, no, we're now going to build our franchise around Pat Cummins for the foreseeable future. I always think having the biggest price tag, it proves to be a bit of a weight around people's necks in the last few years. When you think of the guys who've gone for the huge money. Chris Morris a couple of years ago, retired after a year. Harry Brook last year had so much money. Sam Curran, huge price tag on him last year. Didn't really do anything in the IPL. So I think Pat Cummins, they probably think that, he has got that World Cup medal. He is a proven leader. He is a very calm, cool head. And he's obviously the way that they want to move forward as a franchise. So I think it's quite an astute move. I can see him doing quite well. It's a perfect ground for him, actually. The ball can do a little bit for when he's bowling, and it's also a fairly good place to bat when he's whacking it at the end. So don't be surprised if Sunrisers bounce back this year and have a very good IPL.
You know, with the kind of buys they've managed in this auction, they certainly should be making some sort of announcement, some sort of, some sort of ripples as far as the next season of the IPL is concerned. Some of the other names, Graeme, that shout out, Rovman Powell amongst the first set, and he was expected to go for a bit. 7.4 crores, not bad for the West Indian.
Yeah, I mean, Rovman Powell, he's smashing the England bowlers everywhere in the West Indies. So he's a very exciting player. He's not really featured so far in the IPL. He's been doing it in the peripheries, in the other franchises around the world, in the T10 in Abu Dhabi. He smashes it everywhere. So I'm not surprised to see him involved. And it's quite a nice little payday for him as well. He may be the sort of player who actually wins more games than, say, a Pat Cummins or a Sam Curran, players like that. Because of the actual place he bats in the batting order, he'll go in at 5 or 6 in that key role. I think that Andre Russell sort of area and Kieran Pollard, that sort of finisher, the explosive hitting from the West Indies. Pollard and Russell haven't really delivered in the last couple of years. They're still good, but they're not as good as they were. Rovman Powell could be the guy to step into their shoes.
Yes, just to mention for our viewers, a couple of other big bids that have just been confirmed are Harshal Patel, of course, base price of 2 crores has gone for 11.75 crores for Punjab Kings. They seemed very, very determined to get Harshal Patel. Obviously, Indians are going to be in high demand. Gerald Coetzee has gone to Mumbai Indians for 5 crores. Azmatullah Omarzai, base price of 50 lakh, has gone to Gujarat Titans. I think he was someone who did kind of, show exactly what he could do with the bat, looked very elegant batting. But I want to talk about, when we're talking about batting, I want to talk about Rachin Ravindra. He's gone to CSK for just 1.8 crores. And Graham, we were talking about Rachin Ravindra during the World Cup. He enthralled everybody with his finesse. Everybody was gaga over his batting. When he came up for the auction today, it almost seemed like nobody was going for him. And eventually, Chennai would be very happy with that price of 1.8 crores.
They'll be absolutely over the moon. I think that is possibly the steal of the auction so far. Looking at a player with sort of renowned qualities, and yeah, I was with you. I thought that there'd be paddles up everywhere for him, but in the end, 1.8 crore. I think that is an absolute steal for him. So they'll be over the moon, Chennai, that they've managed to bag that. Very astute though, aren't they, Chennai? They always sort of keep their noses down and keep their heads under the radar. Stephen Fleming's a very astute man, so he'll be rubbing his hands together with glee right now, I think.
All right, Graham, stay with me. I also want to bring in my colleague Soumay, who's been tracking the auctions. Just to mention a couple of other names that have gone unsold. Riley Russo, possibly a surprise. Karun Nair, Stephen Smith has gone unsold in the first try, and Manish Pandey. These are the names that have gone unsold. But other than that, let me go across to my colleague Soumay, also joining us. Soumay, what's the latest happening in the auctions now?
So Darryl Mitchell has been among the bidding war, and also Harshal Patel got a good amount, 11.75 crores. He's got Harry Brook went for 4 crores. That was a bit surprising for me, the way he went in the auctions last year. Apart from that, Darryl Mitchell has finally gone to for 3.6 crores. He's been bought, and Rachin Ravindra was a surprise for me, 1.8 crores. But again, he's a youngster, will get groomed under someone like an MS Dhoni, and also they do have a lot of left-arm spinners in Mitchell's and Ravindra Jadeja, and now Rachin Ravindra adding to that squad. But again, MS Dhoni is someone who is very fond of left-arm spinners, so that was probably the case with Rachin Ravindra, and also the kind of batting display he put up in the World Cup with those hundreds and everything. He's quite familiar to the conditions as well down, in that area of where the IPL will be held for CSK, where CSK will be playing their home matches. So that is something that has added up.
Yeah, Soumya, speaking about Chennai Super Kings, Swan, it seems like they're coming to the party. You were talking about them keeping their noses down a little bit, but they have lapped up Darryl Mitchell for a whopping 14 crore rupees. So they needed somebody in place of Ben Stokes. They've got somebody.
Yeah, I just see that now. I think, again, a brilliant World Cup for Mitchell.
Yeah.
And has proven how sort of key it is. It's that batsman in that middle order role, the numbers 4, 5 and 6. They're the ones who win you games in the IPL. More often than not, they have to either chase down a total or really set that big total. So whereas your bowlers might pick you up wickets here or there, teams will always put a lot of money in that middle sort of innings area. You see, like Glenn Maxwell always goes for huge money. Mitchell's sort of in that role. A very good player of spin bowling. He's shown that he can hit the ball down the ground really well using his feet, and also sweep well.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of people would have been very keen to get that on board their franchise. A foreigner who plays spin really well in the IPL, and from that New Zealand team as well. He's their best player in a team that sort of continually punches above their weight. I know we always say that they are a fine team with a lot of good players, but Mitchell's been the pick of them in the last few years. So it's a lot of money though. It's more than I expected, but good on him.
Yeah, absolutely. There seemed to be a bit of a bidding war, a protracted one for him. But overall, Graham, do you think there's been a little bit of divide over this, and a little bit of discussion over this? Should the recently gone by World Cup performances be the ones that the teams would be going for? It certainly seems some of those stars from the World Cup are certainly fetching top dollar. Or is it that a lot of teams are going to ignore what happened in that 50-over World Cup and are going to just have a strategy that is completely different?
Well, yeah, that's the argument, isn't it? The very crux of it is that what is fresh in the mind of people will influence you at an auction. And even though the franchises do plan and they do have mock auctions beforehand, just to make sure they don't get carried away, they don't get emotional on the night. I'm sure sitting there when they're thinking, well, we do want this player, and if he's just scored 100 in a World Cup, just a month ago, and the bids get close and you get towards the end, someone's going to panic and stick that paddle in the air and keep adding to it. Personally, I think, a 50 over World Cup is exactly that. I wouldn't go too much off it. I would be thinking long term what's happened last year's IPL in T20 cricket, moving into this. I think that's where you pick up your steals, your bargains. If you just go on the 50 over World Cup, you end up paying a lot of money for people who aren't necessarily suited for T20 cricket or IPL. I'm not saying that about Mitchell at all, because he's a good T20 player. But I'd be more going down the line of look at what's happened in the T20 rather than the very recent 50 over past.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Just very quickly going back across to Soumya as well to get an update. I'm looking at the charts and Royal Challengers Bangalore haven't bought anybody just yet. What do you think of the strategies? Clearly Sunrisers have more or less spent everything that they had. What about the strategies from the others? What is Royal Challengers Bangalore looking for in this auction, Soumya?
No, clearly they had a strategy to take up Pat Cummins, but that didn't really go well. That didn't really go with along the way they wanted to, but because the bidding was much higher, they have been looking for someone like someone of that sort, so who can play a containing bowler's role, because they just have Reece Topley as a overseas pacer. They have Siraj, they have Akashdeep, but these guys have been giving away some runs in the death overs, and they have been a bit they haven't been economical in the T20 format in the IPL. So they needed someone of that sort. They needed someone who is experienced enough, and plus also they are probably looking for looking at the bidding they made. They are looking for someone who can also take up the leadership role in the coming years, probably because Pat Cummins does have a lot of cricket left, and he played he won the World Cup with Australia, he won the WTC with Australia. That was the reason they went for him. But hard luck for RCB, they couldn't get him. But that is the strategy they are opting for, having someone who can also be in the leadership role and is a top class bowler and probably overseas.
Well, Chennai have only bought Shardul Thakur so far. You've got Punjab who've bought Harshal and not much else. I am looking at KKR haven't bought anything. Delhi haven't bought anything. So a lot still to bid for. Graham, we'll keep coming back to you. Thanks a lot for this quick hit, and my colleague Soumya as well. We're slipping into a very short break, but of course you can go across to our YouTube channel on CNN News 18 and watch our continuous coverage of the IPL auctions.